University CM Institutes. We are starting with the new subject or chapter today with respect to legal aspects of business. Now, this is a completely new subject. We have not yet covered or touched any of the portion of this subject. And in terms of your understanding of your induction program, I have given you a brief overview or orientation about what the particular subject is. This particular subject is divided into further 5 chapters, and the respective 5 chapters are Indian Contract Act, the Sale of Goods Act, the Negotiable Instrument Act, the Indian Companies Act, and lastly, the Consumer Protection Act, along with a certain portion of patent, trademark, and copyrights, that is IPR concern. Now, legal aspect of business, this particular subject specifically deals with or gives you an understanding or explanation about the various laws which you have to regulate, various laws which you have to implement, and you have to follow during the course of your business activities. Specifically, with respect to your business concern, there are various laws that are there into existence, and as an individual, that is a citizen or an employee or an employer, if you have your own business, then you must be an entrepreneur or you are an employer. And if you are working with an organization, then will be an employee of that particular business concern or the organization. So for this case, what happens? You have to be in a regular daily business practice. We have to understand, we have to deal with various laws, rules, regulations that are there into existence. Those laws, those framework are strictly for to be followed by each and every individual, and they have to comply with as per the terms and conditions that have been provided by the government, because it is having a legality as an object from the constitutional point of view. So anyone who is not obeying or who is not complying with these particular laws are attracting a certain penalty from the respective government, and they will be punished, which is either which may be included in terms of your fine, or you may be put behind the bars, that is in prison also. So in those terms, we'll be understanding or dealing with how the individual laws are there into existence and how you need to regulate or govern the business activities. So the brief overview now, starting with the first chapter. The first chapter is specifically the Indian Contract Act of 1872, that is ICA. So henceforth, the short form of Indian Contract Act will be ICA. So the is been removed, and for every act is called as in the Indian Contract Act of 1872. This particular act, now why add every act, whenever you see it, the year has been followed with that particular name of that particular act. It has been given in such a way or in such a particular fashion, because so as to remember in which year the act has been passed or it has been enacted. So this particular act, that is the Indian Contract Act, it has been enacted, it has been approved and got the consent of the respective hierarchical monarchy, because in the earlier sense there was no government into existence. Whereas whenever the British rule or British hierarchy was into existence in the year 1872, there was no constitution, there was no parliament, and hence the Indian Contract Act of 1872 was passed by the British monarchy, that is with the assent or consent that was been given by the then Queen Elizabeth, which was there. So the approval was received from Great Britain. Now, the syllabus of Indian Contract Act of 1871, essential elements of a valid contract, performance and discharge of contract, breach of contract with the meaning and remedies, contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. So these are the various two major perspectives wherein the contract of indemnity or the contract of guarantee, a 10 marks question can be asked for you. Further, with respect to the surety and co-surety. Now here at this case, 5 marks question can be asked for you with respect to the surety and co-surety, but an extensive long question can be or may be asked on agency contract. So what is meant by agency contract? How do you define an agent? Whom we can call an agent, and what is the relationship between the principal and the agent? Creation of agency, classification of agents. So what are the different types of agents that are there into existence? Relationship between the principal and agent, agent authority, revocation and renunciation, rights and duties and liabilities of the agent as well as the principal. So whenever we say there is existence of rights and duties, so for rights, duties and liabilities, the agent rights, duties and liabilities are different, whereas of the principal also they are different. And lastly, the concept of termination of an agency. So if there is an existence of an agency contract between two persons, that is the agent and the principal, and if you want to terminate that particular contract, then what are the various terms in which the particular contract can be terminated or it can be extinguished? So how the liabilities, rights and duties of the respective persons, that is the agent, the principal and both the persons or the agency can come to an end. So these all particular things will be covered in chapter number 1. Now I am beginning with chapter number 1. So introduction, this particular contract, that is the Indian Contract Act of 1872, it was passed in the year 1872 and it was been approved or got the permit or assent by the respective British hierarchical monarchy that was there into existence. Now what does it covers? It covers the various laws, rules, regulations and discussions about how an individual has to follow or how the individual has to perform his daily business activities. So in the ordinary course of business, if a particular individual is living in the common course of time, then what are the various laws that one has to follow, what are the various rules that one has to follow, and how law or legality is getting attracted. So in the day, course of duration of time, that is from your early in the morning, whenever you get down from your bed to the time till you sleep again back to your bed, there are several number of contracts that we are entering into. There are several number of legal laws, rules, regulations that are there into existence, which we individually come into existence. Very few often or very at certain phases of frequency point of time, we enforce this particular contract and we do not enforce this particular contract. Now, what do we mean by enforceability? Enforce means in the sense that is whenever you attract a certain law or whenever you attract a particular section which is in purview or which is within the boundaries of this particular law, then that particular contract may be called as an enforceable contract. Similarity in the Indian and British concept. Now, the concept that you will be studying in Indian Contract Act of 1872, it is almost similar concept with respect to the British government that was there into existence. So entire Indian Contract Act of 1872 was as it is replicated, as it was being copied from the British government. So the Indian Contract Act of 1872, as we have enacted or as we have accepted in India, it is same in terms of British concept or UK also. So there is no much difference between that particular concern. So as in we can see the Contract Act that has been framed in Indian origin, the same Contract Act existed or is still into existence in British concept also. So the laws, rules, regulations are almost similar, which is applicable to India as well as which is applicable to the British, that is UK. Over a period of time, there are several amendments or several revisions has also been undertaken, and as and when the need has been required, the Parliament has provided certain consent or authority for changing or amending these particular laws. Now, at a several stages or point of time, you must be feeling or you must be thinking that why this particular act was of such acceptance or why this particular act was passed in this particular manner or this particular fashion. Because the reason was such that just imagine the era of 1872, wherein we were having limited number of people, we were having limited number of good people who were working as a good academic leaders and so on, and in terms of the administration or political background of that particular scenario also. Very few people or political leaders were also in existence, and very few freedom fighters, they were also there into existence, and they have a certain vision of framing or building a new India. So for building the new India, they have went to this particular England or London or UK and so on, and accordingly after their study, that is whenever they completed their barrister, that is Mahatma Gandhi, Ambedkar and so on, they went to this particular concept, they learned the British Parliament, and accordingly from those concerned, the Indian Contract Act of 1872 was been enacted or it was been accepted. So whenever you see the drafting of the particular constitution or drafting of the Indian Contract Act is there into existence, it is almost similar, which has been adopted from the British economy. Now, what is a contract? So now let's begin with the particular concept of understanding what the contract means, and step by step, each and every step will be going further with respect to the understanding of the concept. Now, whenever we are dealing with any type of, now just a generalized statement I am making for each and every individual student, that whenever any type of act or whenever any type of law or rule or regulation that you are going to study for, at every stage the section, it is every act has been divided into several chapters, and the further chapters have been divided into certain sections. Now, in terms of the Indian Contract Act, we have around 7 to 8 chapters. That is, earlier it was 7, and further after the agency contract, guarantee contract, and so on, the chapter has been included, and it becomes 8 chapters. So from Indian Contract Act, we have a respective 8 chapters, and these particular 8 chapters are further divided into more than 300 sections. So there are 300 sections in Indian Contract Act, and each and every individual section is having its own importance. Now, a general thumb rule which is applicable for each and every act or a law that was into existence is, the first thing is the section number 1. The section number 1 specifically focuses on what is the name of the act that they are passing for. So for each and every concern or each and every act or each and every law that has been passed by the parliament, the section 1 defines what is the name of that particular act. So in this case, section 1 will be this particular act will be called as the Indian Contract Act of 1872, and it has been passed in the Indian Constitution. Furthermore, one more line that has been added in terms of section 1 is this law is applicable to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, since from 1947 to 2018 or 2019, this particular line was into existence in each and every act that was been passed. Why? Because section of 370 on and that particular 374 and all this particular thing, which Narendra Modi government, now the NDA government, has removed the special status or special category of Jammu and Kashmir. So earlier, what was the line that was being specifically mentioned, that this particular law or act applies to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So any act, any law, any existence or any rule that has been passed in Indian Parliament or Indian Constitution, it was not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. But after now, but in today's scenario, that is 20 and 21 onwards, all the laws, all the rules, regulations are applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and there is no differentiation between India and J&K. So there is only one law that is into existence, and one law which has been passed every year into the parliament. It is applicable to entire Indian region or Indian country. So that particular thing is very clear for each and every individual student, that section 1 will always be the definition of this particular act, that is the definition in terms of meaning. So what will it be called? This particular act will be called as an so and so act, and it is passed on the so and so date. So specifically the date is made applicable and from when the act is applicable. For example, with the help of GST, that is the Goods and Service Tax Act of 2016, it specifically mentions section 1 that this particular act will be called as the Goods and Service Tax. It is up and it is passed on so and so date, and it is applicable from 1st of April 2017. So in this way, the date of implementation of that particular act also has to be mentioned very specifically along with a certain connotation. That particular connotation is this particular act is applicable to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now this particular line is been removed from all the act and it is further not into existence. So remember, from a 2 marks, that is this particular question can be asked for your 2 marks, that which is the particular state which is applicable for whole of the India. So the answer is Jammu and Kashmir, and or a particular draft can be given for you and you have to identify which name has to be replicated and fill in the blanks. Now section 2H of ICA. Now what does ICA mean? ICA stands for Indian Contract Act. So section 2H of ICA 1872 defines it as an agreement which is enforceable by law. So at this stage, what do we have to do? A simple definition, a smaller definition which has been provided by the Indian Contract Act of what is meant by contract, an agreement which is enforceable by law. So what is an agreement? Now the definition of agreement is given further. So in terms of understanding what is a contract, first thing what you need to do, you need to understand what is agreement. Whenever you understand the agreement, then you understand the promise. Whenever you understand the promise, then you understand different terms. So it depends on a dependability. So there is a series, there is a sequence of definition that has been provided in Indian Contract Act, and based on those particular series, based on those particular sequences, you will be able to clearly understand what is meant by contract. So an agreement which is enforceable by law. So enforceability means wherein at any stage or any point of time, the law can come into existence. So enforceable by law. So law is there, but whenever the law is there into existence, only then the agreement can be undertaken, and only when there is agreement, the Contract Act can be into existence. So it is a reverse definition. So first thing that you need to see, there must be law. That particular law must be into existence, and whenever that particular law is into existence, it must have an agreement. So what is that particular agreement? That you will understand further. So requirement of a law, requirement in the sense of an existence, that is each one of must be able to identify which type of act it is, which type of law it is, which type of rule it is, and how it is made applicable, and what are the various liabilities, duties and authorities of a particular individual citizen. Specifically, Indian Contract Act specifically focuses or deals with the individual perspectives about what is the understanding of an individual. So an individual, in what way he has to perform, in what way he has to conduct his respective activities, all those things are covered under the terms of enforceability in terms of the law that is there into existence. And when all these things are into place, what happen? We enter into an agreement. That particular agreement, that we have another various essential requirements with respect to the agreement also. So what is an agreement? What is not an agreement? When agreement can be called as a perfectly legal valid agreement, and when a particular agreement is not perfectly legal valid agreement. All these things are coming further. So a simple definition of just only 5 words, that is an agreement enforceable by law. That is the definition of contract, and it can carry 2 marks for you. So a simple definition which carries 2 marks, that is, and specifically section 2H. Second definition which has been provided by Salmon, an agreement creating and defining obligations between the parties. So at any stage or any point of time, what happened? There is an existence of an agreement. So whenever we say that is contract is there into existence, along with the contract, we must have an agreement. Now, what is that particular agreement? I'll be dealing with you, or you will be understanding what is the meaning of an agreement. So an agreement creating and defining the obligations. Now here the term obligations means obligations of both the parties. So creating and defining the obligation between the parties. So always now here at this stage, it is not a single word, but is it a multiplier word, that is S. So definition of this particular concern of a Salmon, it clearly mentions about what is the difference between a party and what is the difference between parties. So always what do we have to see? There is between the parties. So there must be more than 2 people, or at least 2 people that have been involved while creating or undergoing a particular contract or a particular agreement. So an agreement which is creating and defining the obligation at any stage or any point of time. If there is an agreement into existence, that particular agreement must create in the sense it should be binding on both the parties. That is the person who is making the agreement and the person who is going to perform that particular agreement. Simultaneously, it must define the obligations. What are the obligations? The obligations are the rights, duties, responsibilities of the parties. So if there are 2 parties involved into that particular agreement, all the rules, regulations and rights applies to both the people. If there are n number of people, that is 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 people that have been involved into this particular agreement, the same rules, laws, regulations applies to all the parties to the contract. So in this way, there is a definition that has been provided by Salmon. Essential requirements of a contract. So as per the definition of Salmon, there are major 3 essential requirements that have been there into existence. First thing, minimum 2 parties, an agreement and a legal obligation. So first thing that we need to see is always whenever we want to say that an agreement has to be there into existence, there should be proper law into existence, there should be an enforceability. For this concern, the basic essential requirement is the requirement of 2 parties. If there are no 2 parties into this particular contract, the contract cannot be treated as a perfectly legal valid contract. Second thing, an agreement. So what is an agreement? Agreement means just in simple terms an assent. That is the confirmation given by both the parties. Now, for this concern, I'll give you a smaller example. Now, few students, what happened? That is, whenever your number was been allotted from the cap round, what happened? You approached to the college. Whenever you approach to the college, what did I do? I first ask you the particular confirmation that whether you have freezed the seat or not. So once you give me the particular consent that yes, I have freezed my seat, then I was asking you to show you a particular letter. That particular letter was clearly displaying that the seat has been confirmed and the seat has been freezed. So this particular consent or this particular document which is in writing, it gives an agreement. That what was that particular agreement? That you agree to the terms and conditions of the DT, you agree to the terms and conditions of the Kashibai Navle College, and accordingly you are ready to take admission for MBA at SKNCOE. So in this way, it is an agreement. Furthermore, now 2 parties. Earlier, what was the situation? The 2 parties were the student or the particular candidate and the DT. That was the 2 parties. The second party, now what happened? You have freezed that particular seat, you have confirmed your admission with DT, and what happened? The DT has allotted you a particular college. That is, now the parties have been changing. The one that is the first party, that is you as a particular individual student, you remains the same, but the second party changes accordingly its role. Now DT is not into picture. Now the Kashibai Navle College comes into existence, and accordingly the parties are changing. So here again in this case, 2 parties are there into existence. So agreement. Now the first agreement was between DT and the student. Now the second agreement starts between the student and the institute or the particular college. So as you approach to me, what do? I have checked your allotment seat, I have checked your confirmation, I have checked your free status, and after this confirmation, I have said you to fill that particular admission form. So what you have done, you have filled that particular application form with in your own eligible handwriting. You have pasted your photograph, you have signed that particular agreement, and accordingly you give your signature stating that you will abide to the rules and regulations. Now after this point of time, what happened? There is an agreement, there is a contract which is enforceable by law, and this particular law that was been into existence is again between the two parties. Now which are those two parties? The first party is the Kashmir Naval College, and second party is the respective student itself. So here agreement is into existence. Third perspective, at any stage or at any point of time, whenever you're conducting any contract or any agreement, there must be a legal obligation between both the parties. Legal obligation in the sense, all the contracts, all the agreements, all the happenings or all the activities that you're conducting in any of the transaction or any of the mode, at every stage there must be there should be a legal existence at every point of time. That particular legal existence is how the parties are liable towards each other. That is, what are their rights, what are their obligations, what are their duties, and in what way they have to perform their promises. So any promise that you are going to give, any agreement that you are going to make, any contract that you are going to enter, it must be bounded by a legal activity, by a legal obligation. So at any stage or any point of time, if any of the party is not performing their promises respectively, then what we can do, we can go to the respective authority, and then the necessary compensation or necessary damages can be claimed as and when it has been required. So with respect to the Salmon, there are essential requirements of the contract, that is two parties, an agreement, and a legal obligation. Now, understanding the next concept of essential elements of a valid contract. This is a very important perspective with respect to your long answer question. A 10 marks question can be asked for you with respect to the what are the various essential elements of a valid contract. Now these essential elements of a valid contract are universally applicable. It will be applicable for you entire lifelong. That is, you have to be study, you have to be understand with this each and every individual concept in very perfect manner. So unless and until all the 10 essential elements of a valid contract are not clear for each and every individual student, we are not going to move further. So ensure that all these particular concepts are very crystal clear for you and you understand in a very better way. Now earlier, the three essential elements that we have seen that are with respect to the